We had the Republicans. I think and for the life of me now, I think it was last Thursday, we were talking about the COVID relief bill, and one of the dynamics that was coming out was this gang of 16 that so-called moderate Republicans and conservative Democrats had convened as a way of essentially undercutting the $1.9 trillion package that Joe Biden had proposed for COVID relief. And one of the problems with that is that gang of 16, 8 Democrats, 8 Republicans doesn't get you anything, because 8 Republicans is the same as no Republicans on a bill, because if you don't hit at least 10 Republicans, then you cannot defeat their filibuster. And because you need at least 60 votes in the Senate to overcome a filibuster. Well, somebody on the Republican side figured that out, and they said, we've got to even appear like we're doing anything real, we've got to present 10 Republicans who can sign on to a bill. The problem is the Republican Party has moved so far to the right and has so little interest in helping Americans recover from COVID, the economic effects, and frankly, I mean, this new report out about Donald Trump's administration lobbying quite successfully, it appears, Republican lawmakers to deny states funding for vaccinations, that Republicans had no interest in helping Americans recover from the economic impact of the COVID pandemic, nor apparently the actual pandemic itself. And so they've presented a $600 billion bill, which is not even remotely close to the task. And so Democrats are faced with two questions here, or two options. One is to stop trying to pursue a deal with Republicans for the sake of pursuing a deal with the Republicans, and simply take all of this and just do it through reconciliation, or to maybe strike a deal for $600 billion with Republicans there and then hope that you can go into reconciliation and make up the rest. However, we know there are shaky Democrats here. We'll talk more about that later in the program. We're talking about like folks like Kristen Sinema. We're talking about folks like Joe Manchin. John Tester, Emma, you said you saw it came out in support of saying that 1.9 billion was not too much money.
Trillion. Yeah. Yes. But, yeah. Right. And so that's, to me, that's a good indicator that Schumer will be able to keep his caucus together eventually. But I think the problem here is that they are wasting way too much time, Biden and co., in order to give the appearance of bipartisanship, as if the American public cares whether their stimulus checks are passed through reconciliation or over a filibuster. I mean, it just seems like very odd doing this bizarre dance that's entirely unnecessary.
Right. And is it really bipartisanship anyways? Like, what does that really mean in this instance? That you get 10, a quarter of the Republican caucus? No, excuse me, less than a quarter, 20% of the Republican caucus to sign on 1/3 of what is actually needed for the American public. Here is Bernie Sanders responding to Martha Raddatz on ABC This Week from this weekend about the idea of passing through reconciliation. And understand, reconciliation simply means that you need a majority vote, period. It's not that radical of a concept in what is supposedly a democracy. Here's number one.
Good morning, Senator. The Democrats seem prepared to pass Biden's COVID relief package with or without Republican support, which has been shrinking in recent days. Did the president overestimate the appetite for bipartisanship?
Look, Martha, we all want bipartisanship, and I think you're going to see more of it as we move down the pike. You're going to see bipartisanship on infrastructure, There are a lot of Republicans who are outraged by the high cost of prescription drugs in this country. We pay 10 times more than other countries do for certain drugs. We are going to look forward to working with Republicans. But right now, this country faces an unprecedented set of crises. We have families who are watching this program right now who cannot feed their kids. We have millions of people who face eviction. We are in the midst of the worst pandemic in 100 years. We have got to act, and we have got to act now. And we just don't have.
Senator, you said you can't reach out to Republicans indefinitely, and Democrats should use the majority. But this morning, we're hearing 10 GOP senators have a new plan. So is it a mistake for Democrats to consider abandoning bipartisanship negotiations so soon?
Martha, the issue is not, bipartisanship. We're not. The issue is, are we going to address the incredible set of crises and the pain and the anxiety which is in this country? You know what? I don't care what anybody says. We have got to deal with this pandemic. We have got to make sure that we are producing the vaccines that we need and get those vaccines into the arms of people. We cannot have children in America going hungry, people being evicted, schools not open. We need to open our schools in a safe way. That's what we have to do. So the question is not bipartisanship. The question is addressing the unprecedented crises that we face right now. If Republicans want to work with us, they have better ideas on how to address those crises. That's great. But to be honest with you, I have not yet heard that.
Does your party have the votes to pass the relief package through the reconciliation process if you decide to go that route?
Yeah, I believe that we do, because it's hard for me to imagine any Democrat, no matter what state he or she may come from, who doesn't understand the need to go forward right now in an aggressive way to protect the working families of this country. Look, all of us will have differences of opinion. This is a $1.9 trillion bill. I have differences and concerns about this bill. But at the end of the day, we're going to support the President of the United States, and we're going to come forward, and we're going to do what the American people overwhelmingly want us to do.
Well, I just love how he frames that. I mean, the issue with all of this is that Joe Biden has framed this bipartisanship being necessary as a precursor to passing this bill. Now, he's backed off of it a little, but this was what he ran on. Bernie's framing is exactly correct. I mean, the media likes bipartisanship for bipartisanship's sake, and that's one of my frustrations with it. That's where the framing of those questions comes in, where it's just about, can you come to a compromise? Well, what does that compromise entail? And I love how Sanders is able to reframe it from, no, let's talk about the substance of the relief, as opposed to the salsa dance or the tango of bipartisanship. That's the better analogy than the salsa.
I have to say that when I was watching that clip, the idea of having Bernie Sanders as the chairman of the budget committee really does make this this pivot much easier to make, when there was a certain inevitability. And look, Joe Biden ran on unity, and I think we will see, hopefully, knock on wood, that he is going to define unity as something other than having to compromise I think, obviously Sanders says that I think he was implying he would like a bigger bill, frankly. And I think there are others who would. Certainly I would be one of those. But at the very least, we're not seeing Joe Biden do what the Obama administration did, which is come out, compromise with themselves as a way of enticing Republicans, spend a lot of time with Republicans basically taking a step back from meeting in the middle, then taking a step forward to meet Republicans in the new middle, and have that dance go on for a year and a half. Instead, what we're seeing is the Biden administration not only holding fast, they're inviting the Republicans to the White House, and we will see what comes out of this. But if it's just like, hey, I invited them, we talked, we couldn't come to an agreement, we're just going to pass this because we have the majority, that is a great way to define unity. Unity meaning, well, I'm willing to meet with them, have lunch, and if we can't come to an agreement, we're going to go forward with this. But one of the things, and we'll expand on this later in the program, they sent Kamala Harris out to do interviews in Arizona and West Virginia. It ruffled Joe Manchin's feathers a little bit, basically reiterating the point, we need this bill. And so if there was any shakiness that Joe Manchin was feeling, or Kristen Sinema, this was a way to put pressure on them. And Joe Manchin bucked a little bit. But we then had the governor, Republican governor of West Virginia, come out and say, we need this. And so this is so far, would like to see a bigger number, but so far, at least with the number that the Biden administration, and I think one that, look, Joe Biden won the primary, won the presidency. They're at least holding to what they said that they would do. Although I think, there's a very good argument that if you're going into reconciliation, you might as well make those checks $2,000 just for the, A, we know the benefit that it provides people. B, we also know the politics of this. But